Petals participants. We're back with another plant investigation, and this one's called a flower study, and it is in the Budding Botanist book. So my students love this activity because they get their own flower and they get to take apart or dissect a flower, and they think that is the most awesome thing ever, that they get to take apart something. So the flowers that you want to get for this investigation, okay, are a lily, or this is called an Astromeria. It is less expensive than the lily. The lilies can get pretty expensive, but you want at least one lily for yourself to do the demonstration, because a lily, the parts of the flower are very prominent in a lily, and they're very easy to show the students. So for this investigation, they will need their own flower study sheet. And I also give the students, and you can print this front to back, I also give them the labeled diagram of a flower. And before I even give them the flower, we look at our diagram and we talk about the different parts of the flower, and I will show them the different parts of the flower. So if you look in the middle of the flower, and we will pause so we can get a closer look at the parts of the lily. Okay, so here's the lily, and if you look up close, you can see I'm going to turn it this direction, I'm going to turn it this direction like this. So this thing that sticks out in the middle with this little knobby thing on the end, that's the female part of the flower, and it's called the pistil. Okay, and the pistil has something sticky on the top of it called the stigma. And I tell my students, remember, sticky stigma. Well, the stigma is sticky because the pollen grains, which are right here, these are the male parts of the flower surrounding the female, called the stamen. And the stamen have these little things on the top that hold the pollen, and they're called the anthers. And I tell my students, remember, antler of a deer, anther. Okay, so the anthers are on top of the stamen. And the kids can actually put their fingers right there. So I'm going to do that on top of the anther. And if you look there, you can see the pollen grains. So what those pollen grains do is, one of them, and we talk about how the bees and the butterflies are important here. The bees and the butterflies land on the stamen, and then they land on the pistil, because that's where yummy nectar is, and they transport a pollen grain to the sticky stigma, and one of those pollen grains grows down the pistil, down to the bottom part of the flower, which is called the ovary or ovule, and then one of the little pollen grains, okay, will grow into a little baby seed. And so the students are generally they love that. They think that's awesome. We also talk about the petals of the flower and why the petals of flowers are brightly colored. Well, they're brightly colored to attract the pollinators. They're pretty for us, but they do have a very important, that's an adaptation for flowers, is they want to attract the pollinators. Okay, so one thing we do, and the kids get to do, is they get to open it up, and generally they don't like it. They think I'm killing the flower. But if you open it up, you can see the little baby seeds. I don't know if I'm going to see them in here. You can see little baby seeds inside of it, and I don't see any inside this one. I'm going to try another one for you and see if I can find one in here. But it's at the very base of the flower, and if you open it up, you generally can see some little baby seeds inside of it, and I think I found some. They're white and they're small. I have one on my, you can't see that, I have one right there on my fingernail. See that one? They're tiny. But yeah, they're right there. I have a couple on my finger. You probably can't see that, but they are there. And so those are little baby seeds, and they will grow. And of course, the flower will die, and the seeds will replant themselves. But the kids, what they will do, the first thing is after you go over the parts of the flower with the students, you want to give them their own flower, and this is called Astromeria, and they're much less expensive, and they're really pretty for the students to draw. Remember, you want to use colored pencils again, and you want to talk to the kids about getting making sure they draw the pattern. So they want to use their hand lens, like that. They want to look at it, and they want to draw a picture on their observation sheet of a top view of the flower parts. And then they want to look at the side, and they want to draw a side view. If you look at the side, they want to draw that. Okay? And then, of course, we want to talk about observations. And what are some observations? Remember, in fourth grade, students do need to know the difference between a qualitative observation and a quantitative observation. And qualitative observations involve color, shape, and texture. And then quantitative observations involve numbers, measurements, or amounts. So they could use, you're going to get a set of rulers. They could use rulers to make an observation. Remember, we want to use centimeters. We want to use the metric system in science. We also want to talk about how we describe smells, okay? Sweet smell, okay? Or salty smell. Or you can say strong smell. And so a lot of the kids say, well, my flower doesn't have a smell. Well, that's okay. You don't have to write that down. So that's a flower study. So I think kids will love this because they get to take this flower apart and they think that's fun.